Hey guys, gosh, the conversation's already started. Someone who knows what that is. Gosh. Hi Chirpy, hi Machine NZ, hi Tinker. Tinker, I did send you an email, probably only tonight. I'll wait for your address on that book. Hey John. Everyone's wondering what this is. It's a planer gauge. It's not a very big one. I'll have another look, Tinker. In fact, it's a very small one. I've been looking for one of these for quite some time, ever since I got my shaper, really. It's a fairly useful thing, and this is missing a couple of pieces. It's a planer gauge. Chirpy's right. It's adjustable this way. I've had digging out, my tummy's rumbling, and I'm sorry about that if you can hear it. Hey Bill. Hey Morris. And it's used for a million things. It's used for setting a tool. It's used for measuring the amount of cut you need to take off something. And it's useful for measuring the distance that you've got sticking up out of the vise, or clearance that you've got, can be used this way too, which this one gives you about 3 inches that way, and down to about 1/4 of an inch that way off the bed. But most of them are about this big. The Starrett one's about 5 inches long, and the bed on my shaper and my mill are not that big. So been looking for this. I just had a look at my eBay listings, and I purchased this on the 13th of September 2017, and the seller wouldn't ship to Australia, which was a bit of a pain. I paid $24 US for free shipping in the US, which is pretty cheap for a nice tool. It's missing a couple of bits. It should have a standard on here and here, or a flat plate. Whether there's something I make or something I find, or find out what that thread is and screw it in. Not sure about that yet. And it could also do with a bit of a tidy up. It's a bit rusty in places. But I bought this in September, 12 months ago in 1 week, and got it shipped to Stan Zenkoski at Bazi Industrial. Now, about March this year, there was a parcel left, and this was in it. The silly thing was that I should have just got it posted on, or I should have just collected it while I was there in June, because it's only just arrived now. And this came in a box to Bruce Witham in Western Australia, with a lot of other goodies, including Greg Chester's Watching My Box prize. But this was all that was in my box, or was there for me, and I should have just had it shipped. But anyway, it's arrived 12 months later, and now everyone's got a planer gauge, and they're kind of the new cool thing. But hopefully someone puts a video up on how to use one, because I don't feel very qualified to do that. But as time goes on, that might even happen. So there's my planer gauge. It needs some standards on here, and it probably needs a box and a clean up. But we're not talking about that because we don't need any more new projects. With it was some hemostats from Stan. Hey JB. Thanks, Chirpy. These come from Stan, and he's still got about 50 kilograms of them. If you happen to want a set, drop him an email. Jump on his channel and drop him an email. Stan's in Koski at Barzy Industrial. Shadon HK, I think his channel name is. I think he wanted like $1 each for him or something. Very useful. So I dropped Stan some dollars, and some of them turned up. I think I shouted everyone in Australia some, so I hope everyone else got some as well. But fairly useful for electronics work. Poking wires in holes. I'm going to grind a pair out with some holes for small wires, and useful for holding a needle for sewing leather, and useful for clamping things. I've got a little project involved for a couple of pairs of these, so maybe one day that'll happen too. Bruce sent all this, and he sent some stickers. There's the new Trueline 8 stabilizing kit sticker. Hey, Thomas. Have a look at Bruce's crazy machine for sorting out the Taiwanese mill. And he sent another one of these, so I can scrape the one off this board and put on my new board, and I'll have one. And he sent a card. Good on him. Bless him. And he sent this. I hope you won't mind me showing you. Right. This is a sign of something he built once, or an installation that he worked on. It says Mullock Pit, which is a Mullock Bin, which I guess was the name of the installation in a mine somewhere. He says it needs restoring. They're called Hermostats, Morris. Spot on. No idea what I'm going to do with this, but at least it's steel and not aluminium, I think. So probably I'm going to be able to clean some of the concrete and stuff off it and straighten it out and give it a coat of paint. I don't even know what colour it was. There's not a lot of traces of anything on it. But that's another project I really wasn't looking for. Don't know what else. Someone asked about what camera I use. A few people did. This used to be the camera I used. This is a Sony cheapie. It's a $250 Australian Handycam. It's all right, but it didn't survive the trip to the foundry on the weekend. It hasn't got a battery in it at the moment, but it's a bit dead and it's got a zoom problem. So I'm going to trade that in. Don't know what to get. Don't know whether to get a GoPro or whether to get another one of these. Whether to survive with my other Sony, which is a point and shoot. That's a pretty good camera. And I use that for a lot of years too. And it still works fine. Maybe that's the answer. Don't know. Opinions, please. Went up to the foundry. Got a little bit more direction about this. This is my second weekend back, which was really nice. So I need to spend some more time learning things. This casting come out really nice, which is this pattern for this engine. Bit of work in this pattern. It's a wooden pattern. And this is the casting. There's a couple of caves just in the corners there. That one and that one must have been where I pulled it off. Not quite straight. And it's crumbled that corner and that corner. A little bit of shrinkage around the gate here. That's sort of to be expected, but it's really not too bad. There's a line there, but nothing serious. Really nice strong edges everywhere. This is pretty smooth. I could have used some finer finishing sand on it maybe, if we split in straws, but really pleased with that casting. Not a lot of confidence that this one here in iron will turn out as nice, and certainly I don't think I'm going to be moulding it. So that was most of the progress. I also did another set of these. For this little traction engine. This one's not too bad. It's had a couple of, needs a fair bit of cleanup, but it's not too bad. I think Tinker that the new GoPro that's coming out, or is rumored to be coming out, I don't know very much about it. I do have a friend who owns a camera shop, and he may or may not have said some things about it, but I believe that that's going to have some of those functions in it, so I might wait for that. These are awful patterns to mould because, for one, they're 3D printed, and you can't always... This pattern in particular is a terrible pattern to mould, and this is aluminium. It's oh gosh, what's it there? L4, something like that, aluminium. Does that sound right? No, I'm not sure it does. But it's just a soft aluminium. These castings, I'm not even sure they're going to be good enough. They're for someone who bought a set. I'm probably going to do them again if they're patient enough to wait for them, because there's a lot of inclusions, I think, in these castings. It's to do with a lot of things, but this is very, very, very difficult to mould satisfactorily. And if I was going to make a pattern for this again, I would either make it on a matchboard, or I would make it with a flat plate on the end, so that when you do mould it, you end up with sand that's going to lift out, and then you can machine that over the top later. This is a pretty tricky pattern to mould. This one's fine, and this is a really nice pattern because it's got a little bit rounder spokes, but these castings are fiddly and not doing so good. Build something cool. Good morning, Mr. Dale Derry, the workshop moving guy. Gosh, you're working hard, Dale. I'd rather you than me. So these little castings are sort of okay, but I'd like to do them again. Yeah, congrats on another new machine, Dale. We all follow you Instagram, even if you don't post on YouTube. So there's not a whole lot more to report, really. I'm going to try and get these cast again. I'm really happy with this one. This needs the cores or the core prints put in it still. there's a core comes all the way through here, and another core in here, and I guess it needs some sort of support out this side. And someone said maybe this needs a slot in here, so it's got some support for the core out this side. I'm not sure about that. That's another option, is to put some sort of slot here. So there's a bit of work in that. There's also a core in the bottom here that goes through with a bigger hole in it to make the cylinder. So the small core goes through the middle, and the bigger hole goes on the outside, and that gives us space around the outside for a water jacket. So it's a bit tricky. We've got this connection and this connection on now for water pipes. Well, thanks, Chirpy. We might try that. Wow, from Georgia to California. Hey, Adam. So it needs a stand out here and another one here to carry the push rod, and another stand out here for the camshaft bearing that goes through here with the gears on the inside. This is where the oiler goes. I'll try that, Chirpy. It's a steep learning curve. Foundry work is really not good. Some of you may have seen the picture of my steady pattern or my steady casting that I posted on Instagram. Lots of shrinkage because we didn't gate it properly. So I'm working on that. But it's a bit of a challenge, and it's a steep learning curve. Incidentally, while we're on the subject of this, and I'm not going to say too much about it, but if someone has a 1920 to 1924 model engineer that's not bound up in a volume and has the advertisement still in it and has a ad for the Stuart 400, I'd be very, very much appreciative of a picture. So it's called the Stuart 400, and it was really only a thing between 1920 and 1924, 1925, I believe. It made some interesting things, and I found out today about, there was on a Facebook, a Stuart Facebook group, there was a picture of a Stuart two-stroke diesel that they built. So that's a fairly rare bird too. I've never seen that one. I've been working on this. Hi, Dan. I've been working on this off and on. We've made the cylinder. Which come out really nice. And started the big end, which is coming out really nice. And made a little knurled knob for the back to hold the cylinder in, which I'm really pleased about. Big thanks to John Pettit for sending this little knurling tool, which the rest of it's in the box. But I'm not going to discount that, because it did a really nice job of nailing that brass. I'm not sure how to go on steel with my lathe, but really a bit impressed with that. For a tool that's not particularly expensive, I'm going to say that that's a keeper. We also got the spring belts which join up for the drive the wheel. It's got a reduced end on one end and they screw together to make a continuous belt. So they come from England. They were a bit hard to find, but they're only about 16th diameter and there's two, I think they're 12 inches long. Another thing we made was this burner, which has got asbestos fiberglass wool in it and mesh. That looks like a pretty good burner. I'm really pleased with the way that works. So that's coming together nice. If anyone has any thoughts on how to make a couple of an inch standard and a half-inch standard for this, which is what I'd like to put on it, just to screw in, or probably with a bolt with a screw in the middle, and just a standard a precision block with a hole through it and a counterbore in the top, without using a surface grinder and all cylindrical grinder and all those sort of things that everyone seems to have nowadays, and I don't. Well, hit me up on that. JB, I haven't. I'm missing a piece and I don't know where on earth it went. I haven't found it anywhere. And I'm stalling a bit on that project because of that. I'm sorry. Lantern tool post on the shaper. There's not much more to do. I need to make this bolt. And that's probably not a big deal. I need to make little dog bone plate to go in there. Other than that, it's pretty much finished. So it's a day's project sometime to make those pieces, and I'm not sure whether to make this out of soft or whether to harden it. And I'm not sure if I've got a bit of steel to make a bolt out of. But that's going to be a fairly useful attachment for the shaper, and I still need to make a piece for a boring bar, probably to try and slot the flywheel on this engine. Not sure how that's going to go because we haven't got a lot of head space on the shaper, but we'll see. Horizontal mill got Thomas. Hey Thomas. Hey Drew. I'll let you know, JB. I've got this bit of 1020, I think it is, and that'd probably do for a bolt, but it's a bit big and it's probably wasteful. I'll find something. I think so too, Chirpy. Is something like that's what it needs. Horizontal mill, I used it last night for the Secret Squirrel project. It's actually set up to machine the letters, and I'm working through a huge box of letters for my engraver. Did you find some Did you find some letters for your engraver, Dale? Have you got anything like that with it? Evening, John. This is my set of letters. I don't know if this is the best way to carry them or sort them out, but I couldn't find a box with 24 compartments in it. And I really couldn't be bothered cutting one up because they're all different widths. Every letter's a different width to get the spacing right. We'll see, Aaron. So I've got about 3 sets here. I've got, can't see with an A. Now what can we see with? Probably a B or a C. I've got a reverse set. And a narrow set. And a wider set. And most letters. So that's a good start. I've shot some footage, Chirpy. Hey, Stefan. I'd be pretty keen to see you make some, Dale. I'm sure you're up for that, and I'd like to see how it's done. That'd be pretty cool. But a reverse set's fun for a lot of jobs. You'll be able to make stamps. Well, that's the theory. I'm not sure if that's how it actually works, but it might be fun to know how someone uses the reverse set as well. I'd be pretty keen on that. How far off being moved for good are you, Dale? It's still a lot of stuff to move, it seems. You're still packing a lot of boxes. Are you making individual trips right across the country? It's a long way from Georgia to San Francisco Bay. Are you making individual trips, or have you put stuff in a container, or what's happening? I would say that's what the reverse letters are for die sinking, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to do a lot of injection molding dies in my future. Okay, 2 big truckloads, I bet. You have a lot of stuff, and the lady of the house would have a lot of stuff too, I imagine. Don't know if there's much else to share though, guys. It's a really good suggestion in the comments last week to weigh the pattern, weigh the castings for my lips turning attachment as I make them, and I think I'm going to do that. Turn my scales on and discover they got corroded batteries, my kitchen scale, so that shows you exactly how much creative cooking I do around here. Yeah, I wouldn't take responsibility for her stuff either. JB, if you cut me a new part for that box, I'd like one of these 1/8 of an inch to the foot. It'd be fairly useful. I haven't ordered flywheels from Martin Model yet. It's going to happen fairly soon. I did buy this morning, which I probably shouldn't have, but I did buy a proper hydraulic testing unit, like a commercial one. They're not. Let's have a look at them. Very easy, JB, to get it mixed up. It's nice just to have one ruler on the bench and not have to worry about checking it every time, because there's not much difference in them. These are proving to be a bit of a challenge. In fact, they got dusty. Look at that. That's terrible. There's a few things that still need to be done and I need to sort out. The next thing I think is probably proper smoke box door decorations, just out of a piece of brass, and a chimney, which is actually attached to the smoke box so the boiler can still come out. The engine's a little oscillator that sits up here. With a flywheel that runs a worm on here like that. This is O scale. It's 1.25 inches. G scale is 1 3/4 and quite a bit bigger. 1 3/4 is gauge 1, and then G scale is narrow gauge 45mm or 1 3/4 gauge. This is 1 1/4. So it's pretty tiny. I have an O scale track that I hope to get set up at some point in the future. And I had every intention of doing it this minute I come back from America, but I went straight back to work, so that didn't happen. But this is O scale. The centers of these wheels are cast lead. I don't know if everyone saw how I did that. With cast iron tread on them. And I'm pretty happy with that. This boiler may get rebuilt or modified. I think this pipe, when I get to the engine, is too big. So I've got some smaller diameter I think I'm going to use, and either I'm going to resolder that in there on the boilers. But that and here, it's on here. And this outrigger bearing here, and then to that on here, covered. So fiddly wood, and I've made engines and getting it out machine is difficult. And until Wembley works the right way around, then it's going to happen. all right, and I'm really pleased with them so far. They're just getting all the port lock at the moment. Single cylinder engine diameter and 8 stroke. Something. They've got quite a heavy lead flywheel goes on here. But there's still a lot, and it was made to. Hey, Craig. Drew's off of there. Does anyone want some coal? And some pure chrome. I'm not sure about the chrome. You shouldn't have any problems getting rid of the coal, though. It's good I haven't had Diddy home from work before this started, so anyway. So that's an update on the two little low-scale engines. At some point, I need to get on and do some more, but I'm not filming them. I'm writing them up for Model Engineer, and I have been doing a little bit of writing on them and a little bit of detail stuff and some photography, not recently with that. One day they'll get it's a inline job. You just go over the pipe. I've got these two on make locks. I had thought the car smoke box doors, but I don't think they're going to last with the heat, so I'm going to make them out of brass. I think that might be the next job on these. Procrastinate the engines a little bit longer. Hey, Matt. Look Creations. Hey, Matt. You're right. I tried 3 or 4 times with that little casting and gave up on that. It's probably not a good idea. We're going to make him out this machine. Anyway, we're done, I think. Thanks for catching up. Anyone want some hemostats? Hit up Stans in Koski. I think he's still got some and he'll post you some. Fairly useful little clamp for a lot of things. He's got a couple of videos about some uses for him in his tool bag, so go and check them out. I'll organise some for you, Stefan. I hope I've got your address soon. I might send you some. That would work, but they're pretty hard to hold, Chirpy. They're only going to be about 2 millimeters thick, so I'm just going to part them off a bit of brass bar. I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for this trade YouTube and Patreon. Check it out. Really pleased with the way that's coming together. There's nothing on yet except what I'm working on getting this so that I can just go ahead and build it all. Thanks, thanks everyone. Till next, we'll see. That's great. Yeah, it's also social interaction. So, thanks.